Picture this. There's a man sitting alone on a park bench. He's not scrolling, not posing, not watching anyone. He's simply there, still at peace, while around him, the world races. People rush to meetings, chase promotions, swipe for love, record their 37th TikTok of the day. They laugh too loudly, speak too fast, always performing, always reaching for something they don't yet have. But not him. He's not chasing wealth. He's not looking for love. He's not trying to be seen. And yet somehow he stands out more than anyone. He radiates something rare, something unsettling, a kind of quiet fullness, a presence that says, I don't need anything from you. And that, my friend, makes him the most dangerous person in that space. Not because he wants to take power, but because he doesn't need it. Not because he's better than anyone, but because he's no longer bound by the same invisible chains, while others seek approval, comfort, distraction. He has found something far more powerful, inner completeness. And that changes everything, because in a society built on want, the man who needs nothing becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, the world sees its own addiction to attention, to validation, to more. So here's the question I want you to hold on to as we go deeper. Why does a man who is inwardly full threaten a system that profits from your emptiness? Let's get brutally honest. This society doesn't just encourage you to want more. It requires you to. The modern world isn't designed to fulfill you. It's designed to keep you needing. The moment you stop craving, you stop consuming. And if you stop consuming, the entire machine begins to rust. That's why every screen whispers, you're not enough. That's why every advertisement screams, you're falling behind. You're not successful enough, so buy the course. You're not attractive enough, so buy the cream, the clothes, the surgery. You're not connected enough, so spend 6 hours a day checking who liked your post, who messaged back, who left you on read. But here's the dark truth. It's not just marketing. It's mind control. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Why? Because once you look inward, truly inward, you realize how much of your identity was built on borrowed beliefs, external expectations, and artificial desires. Society doesn't want you to meet your soul. It wants you to keep running from it. Because the moment you confront your inner world, you begin to see just how manipulated your outer world is. Part 1. The system's fear of wholeness. Jung wasn't the only one who knew this. Centuries earlier, Machiavelli understood the same principle. But from the other side of the chessboard, as the advisor to princes and rulers, he knew exactly how to control a population. His advice: never let the people feel whole. Keep them distracted. Keep them needing. Keep them looking up to the crown for salvation. Because a citizen who is content, who doesn't fear lack, who doesn't hunger for praise, is also a citizen who cannot be ruled. Think about that. When you need nothing, no one can dangle bait in front of you. No promise can seduce you. No threat can scare you. You become ungovernable. And to systems built on dependency, that's the ultimate rebellion. So next time you feel that manufactured itch to be more, to have more, to prove more, pause. Ask yourself, is this a genuine desire or a dependency I've been conditioned to crave? Because the man who questions his own need is already halfway to freedom. And the man who no longer needs, he's already there. So what happens when a man begins to unlearn what society has programmed into him? What happens when he stops measuring his worth by how much he has, how many people approve of him, or how well he plays the game? Part 2. Individuation, the dangerous path inward. Carl Jung had a word for this kind of transformation: individuation. The process of becoming who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. It's not about adding more. It's about stripping away everything false. At the center of this journey is the confrontation with two forces, the persona and the shadow. The persona is the mask you wear to survive in society. It's the polished image, the likable version of you that plays along to avoid rejection. It's the part of you that performs. Jung said, the persona is a kind of coat that we wear in dealing with the world. But it's not who you are. It's who you pretend to be. Most people confuse the mask for their identity, and in doing so, they become prisoners of it. But the man who walks the path of individuation tears the mask off. He turns inward, and there he finds the shadow. Everything he was told not to be. His anger, his lust, his fear, his ambition, his wounds. Most people run from this part of themselves. Jung warned, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But the dangerous man, the man who needs nothing, he doesn't run. He integrates. He brings the shadow into the light. He doesn't let it control him, but he no longer denies it. And by doing so, he becomes whole. Part 3. Wholeness as the ultimate power. This man no longer craves approval. He's not terrified of rejection. He's not driven by the unconscious need to belong. He's done the inner work, the quiet, brutal work of facing himself. He's not trying to be good by someone else's definition. He's trying to be real. And that is what makes him dangerous, because he's not waiting for society to validate his truth. He knows it for himself. He's not reactive. He's rooted. He doesn't follow trend. He follows truth. And in a world built on imitation, someone who is authentically whole becomes a mirror others don't want to look into, because he reminds them of what they've avoided themselves. Now, step into the world of power, politics, control. Machiavelli saw the world not as it should be, but as it is. In The Prince, he wrote, men are motivated by two things, fear and hope. That's how rulers keep people in line. If you fear punishment, you obey. If you hope for reward, you comply. It's a simple formula. Give them enough fear to stay cautious, enough hope to stay loyal. Keep them needing, keep them expecting, and you will never run out of tools to control them. But what happens when a man no longer fears? What happens when he stops hoping for something outside himself? That man is Machiavelli's nightmare, because he's not seduced by promises, and he's not scared by threats. You can't buy him with status. You can't silence him with exile. He doesn't need anything from you. So what leverage do you have left? He's not dangerous because he wants to overthrow the system. He's dangerous because he's immune to it. Part 4. The silent threat to all systems. Because every system, political, corporate, cultural, is built on the assumption that people can be manipulated through their desires and their fears. The man who needs nothing breaks that equation. He's not a radical shouting in the streets. He's something far more unsettling, someone who simply walks away. And that terrifies those in power because it exposes the truth. They never controlled him to begin with. They only controlled his hunger. Once he's full from within, he no longer plays the game. And when enough people stop playing, the game ends. That's why society paints this man as dangerous, not because he's violent, but because he's free. He is self-contained. He is ungovernable, not through rebellion, but through clarity. And that's what makes him the greatest threat to any system built on dependence. He doesn't need the system. And that's exactly why the system needs him to stay asleep. So what exactly goes on inside the mind of a man who needs nothing? It's easy to assume he's cold, detached, emotionless. But that's not it. He's not numb. He's just not ruled. And that distinction makes all the difference. At the core, this man has developed a kind of psychological independence that most people never taste. He's no longer addicted to external input, and that starts with one simple, terrifying strength. He's not afraid of being alone. Most people run from solitude like it's a disease. They keep the music playing, the conversations flowing, the screens glowing, anything to avoid sitting with their own thoughts. But the self-sufficient man has made peace with silence. He doesn't need constant stimulation because he's not at war with himself. He's not trying to escape anything. In fact, he listens to himself. That's the first sign of strength. Part 5. The path to inner freedom. Second, he doesn't seek consensus. He's not scanning the room to see if his ideas fit in. He doesn't need a crowd to validate his truth. His direction comes from within. He's anchored. This doesn't make him arrogant or dismissive. It makes him sovereign. When you think for yourself, you're willing to stand alone. And standing alone terrifies those who have never dared to hear their own voice echo in silence. Third, the self-sufficient man is immune to bribery. Not because he's beyond temptation, but because he's no longer led by need. When you stop fearing lack, you become incorruptible. No status can buy you. No approval can control you. No belonging can bait you. The world flashes shiny distractions, money, fame, acceptance, but he stands unmoved. Why? Because he no longer needs them to feel whole. This is what makes him truly dangerous. Not violent, dangerous, unshakable, dangerous. You can't flatter him, threaten him, or manipulate him because you hold nothing he desperately wants. He is the man who can't be bought, can't be broken, and can't be baited. And that alone terrifies a world built on control. Carl Jung believed in depth, not shortcuts. Real transformation doesn't happen with a motivational quote or a 5-step hack. It is a brutal, beautiful excavation of the soul, a journey of reclaiming each piece you abandoned to please the world. Jung described the stages: facing your persona, wrestling with your shadow, integrating your inner feminine or masculine, and finally, meeting the self, the totality of who you are. At this stage, you are no longer reactive. You don't need the world's applause. You don't crumble under judgment. You move from wholeness, not hunger. And when you do, no shame, praise, or rejection can sway you. You are no longer playing the game of proving. You are simply being. Now consider, what would happen if more men chose wholeness over approval? What if you stopped performing and started living as who you truly are? What could you build if you no longer feared loss? What could you destroy if you no longer feared exile? This path isn't easy. It's not glamorous. You will lose the version of you addicted to applause. You will lose shallow relationships built on performance, not truth. And yes, that loss stings. But what you gain is untouchable. real freedom. Not the aesthetic of freedom sold by influencers, but the raw, sovereign, internal freedom that no one can give you and no one can take away. When you reach this point, love is no longer a transaction. It becomes pure expression. You no longer speak to impress, but to express. You don't follow to belong. You walk your path because it's yours. This isn't detachment. It's devotion to your truth, your integrity, your inner peace. So here's the question you must confront. Will you keep playing a game designed to keep you small? Or will you finally step out and reclaim your power? Who benefits from your endless proving? Who profits when you believe you are not enough? Start questioning the story you've been given. Tear it apart. Then turn inward, not to escape the world, but to finally meet it as a whole man. Listen deeply. Face your shadow. Peel back every layer you've worn for approval. Integrate. Rebuild. And do it not to appear enlightened, but to become unbreakable. Because when you need nothing, you can no longer be controlled. You become untouchable. You become the ultimate threat to a system built on fear and desire. This world doesn't need more obedient men. It needs more whole men, men who can't be bribed, bullied, or broken. Men who carry peace, not because they avoid conflict, but because they've already won the war within. If you feel something stirring in your chest right now, good. That is your invitation. The work begins today. Stay silent. Stay solid. Stay dangerous. Follow dark wisdom if you're ready to become the man the system fears most.